It's Wednesday, March 27th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On Barnstable Today, we learn more about coastal resiliency and the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Project. We also have an update from the airport manager and how Barnstable Municipal Airport contributes to the local economy. Now for a look at municipal news and notes. Starting April 1st, the Town of Barnstable Harbor Master's Office will start selling small vessel decals for the upcoming season. Regulations of vessels on town ways to water, landings, and beaches. A decal issued by the Harbor Master is required to store any vessel on town land with public access to water. The decal will be available Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:15 p.m. at the Marine and Environmental Department office located at 1189 Finney's Lane, Centerville. The price for the decal is $25 for a current Town of Barnstable mooring permit holder and $50 for anyone else looking to store a small vessel on town land. You got questions? Call 508-790-6273. The Town of Barnstable works closely with the Cape Cod Commission on a myriad of municipal challenges. Deputy Director Aaron Perry joins us in studio to outline some of the resources available to the town in planning for coastal resiliency. We talk a lot about coastal resiliency here on Barnstable Today, but we have a special guest with us, Cape Cod Commission Deputy Director Aaron Perry. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There's lots of things happening in coastal resiliency, specifically municipal vulnerability preparedness. You have some news and some understanding about the grant process that has kind of led us to all of this recently. So talk a little bit about the pilot program through NOAA.
Sure. So the Commission, along with a number of our partners, the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, Waquoit Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve, and the Town of Barnstable, were awarded a grant through the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It was a regional coastal resiliency grant back in 2016. To really help communities better understand the vulnerabilities that we face here, primarily sea level rise, erosion, and storm surge, and to provide some resources to help the communities move forward and really develop action plans and strategies for addressing those vulnerabilities. It was an exciting grant for us. We were one of 6 communities nationwide to receive a regional coastal resiliency grant in 2016 out of over 130 applications across the country. Wow. So there was definitely some value that was identified, I think, in this project by NOAA. And what we were really trying to do is to develop tools that would not only allow communities to understand their vulnerability, but to understand the impacts of those vulnerabilities as well as the strategies they might choose to implement, both on the built infrastructure and our kind of built assets in the coastal zone areas, but also the ecosystems that make our region so unique and the services that those ecosystems provide.
So this is very exciting, especially, Barnstable being the largest town here on the Cape. We have a wide area of vulnerability as well. Both sides of town are bordered on the ocean. So why was Barnstable the pilot town? Was it because of that, or?
Sure. So Barnstable, when we really started developing this proposal for this work, Barnstable had been going through a number of different kind of processes and workshops to better understand their vulnerabilities. They had been, putting in a lot of effort into understanding those and figuring out how to take action to move forward. They had participated in regional workshops, statewide processes and planning programs and workshops, and had hosted some of their own local workshops. So they were really investing in trying to better understand and move forward in addressing some of these issues. I think this pilot project served as an opportunity for us to build on their previous work, and also as an opportunity for them to get some additional resources to help move forward and develop action plans to address the sea level rise, storm surge, and erosion.
Great. So what do you hope to kind of gather from this program? Is it data? Is it, strategies? What's going to happen as this really, coalesces?
Sure. So the Resilient Cape Cod project, which is the project funded by NOAA, is really seeking to pull together the data and information. We've already done a lot of that around the hazards and the strategies to develop resources, adaptation strategies, fact sheets, and a database. And then finally, this decision support tool that allows the communities to apply those different strategies to segments of the coastline and better understand their impacts. And so what we're hoping to do is really apply that tool with the town of Barnstable, working through a stakeholder process and building on the priorities that come out of their municipal vulnerability preparedness workshop. Right. And build on that with the community, apply the tool. For us, it's a good opportunity to learn kind of how the tool, how effective it is in communicating the vulnerabilities and helping a community consider their options. And for the town of Barnstable, we hope that it will be an opportunity for them to further define and develop an action plan that takes them one step further beyond the MVP planning process and really helps them to start designing a proposal, or many proposals maybe, for action grants moving forward.
Right. Let's talk about this tool, because it is slick. Had an opportunity to go up onto the website and kind of play a little bit with the different features of it. So let's talk a little bit about this tool.
Sure. So the tool, what we're calling the Cape Cod Coastal Planner, it has everything in one place for a community. We have designed it so that it integrates information on historic impacts from the different hazards. It integrates future projections of sea level rise and other hazards, and it allows the community to understand in some very discrete segments across the region what those specific impacts might be and what they can expect in the future. It then allows them to also learn about the strategies that are relevant and potentially appropriate for each of those individual hazards. It allows them to apply a strategy to the coastline and better understand what the impacts not only to the private and public land value and buildings and infrastructure, but also to ecosystems like salt marsh habitat and beach area, and better understand, comparing one scenario to another, what might kind of be more reflective or more consistent with what their community values are. So it really tries to integrate all of the different aspects and impacts that might result from both, what we will continue to face in terms of hazards, right, and what a community might decide to do about those hazards.
So some of the tool, there's these features and applications. One that I had seen, I looked up my own house. I live on Mount Marston's Mills, so nothing touches me. I've got a beautiful little yellow flag, and there's nothing else around me. But some of these applications in this tool, you can actually see what happens to property around you during different types of weather events and different types of climate, of water rising.
So it really is, the tool is focused around the coastal area, and it is not so specific that you can necessarily plan for a particular property. Right. The point is really to look at the impact to the community and to the region. But what it does illustrate, we have about $28.8 billion worth of assessed value within just our flood zones. That's a significant kind of tax base for every community. Some of our most important kind of cultural assets are within the flood zone. It's an opportunity for the community to see what the impacts on those properties might be. And while other properties may not be within the flood zone, they are certainly impacted when their coastal zones are impacted, not only because of that private and public infrastructure, but again, tying back to the ecosystems and the beaches that most people across the region use and that are so important for our seasonal economy. And so one of the values that NOAA identified in our proposal is the fact that we were integrating those ecosystem services, something that is typically a little bit more difficult, less tangible, and harder to implement and consider and evaluate as part of a public process.
So who's going to use this tool?
So this is what we're hoping to better understand the Barnstable pilot project. We didn't imagine that this municipal vulnerability preparedness program would be available to communities when we developed this proposal. So we're in a really unique and fortunate position that the town of Barnstable was awarded that grant. And so I think this is an opportunity to understand how the tool can be used in a kind of a facilitated public process, and how it can be used in conjunction with other state and local resources that are now available to communities around these issues.
So really, it's this full wraparound of this issue that we're all facing. You know, coastal resiliency and planning for the future. Like you said, this tax base. I mean, most people don't really think of that. Well, you have a hurricane and you think about your own house and the roof blowing off, but you don't think about the town not now having the ability to tax and for those services and programs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm always amazed at how much value is within the coastal area. I mean, that coastal area is key to our identity, and there are a number of people that live and visit, areas within the flood zone, and so it would certainly impact us, directly and indirectly, depending on where you live, if those properties are impacted in the coastal area.
So any other information about the program or the tools that you want to communicate to our viewers?
Sure. So once we get through this Barnstable pilot, which will be done in the next couple of months, this NOAA grant wraps up in June. We hope to really reach out to the other communities, certainly those that are going through the MVP planning process. Barnstable is one of 5 towns that the Commission has been working with as a certified provider of the MVP program. So we'd like to work with other communities, based on the effectiveness of this pilot, to then implement the tool with them, working with them and working with stakeholders in their community.
Right. How can people get more information?
Sure. So they can look at our website, capecodcommission.org/resilientcapecod, for information about this particular process, and then they can certainly feel free to reach out to me or others at the Commission.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Erin.
Thank you.
This Friday, March 29th, the town of Barnstable is hosting an immersive one-day workshop to explore how we are impacted by natural hazards and to identify actions to improve our community's resiliency. The Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Project will bring together local and regional leaders and interested citizens to review vulnerabilities, strengths, and solutions from environmental, social, and infrastructure perspectives. Actions identified by the group will be eligible for future funding under the Commonwealth's MVP program. Elizabeth Jenkins, Director of Planning and Development, has the details. Climate resiliency is important to the town of Barnstable. With me today, Director of Planning, Elizabeth Jenkins. There's all sorts of things moving along for the MVP program through the Commission. Tell us what MVP stands for. I'll make you say the whole words. And then really, there's an event coming up on March 29th, and this is really to get Barnstable on the program. So tell us a little bit about what it is and what the program is.
Sure. Hi, Paula. It's great to be here again. So the town of Barnstable was fortunate enough to be a recipient of a state grant program, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. And this is part of Charlie Baker's $300 million initiative to address climate and coastal resiliency issues around the state of Massachusetts. So we were one of multiple communities across the state and on Cape Cod who received this grant. And it's a planning grant, so the intention is to engage communities, community stakeholders, those sort of with technical knowledge in your community, to really understand the vulnerabilities of your municipality to natural hazards and climate hazards, and then work together to develop an action plan and priorities for responding to these. So we do have an event coming up. We have it scheduled now for March 29th. It's going to be sort of an all-day immersive event. If folks are really interested in getting, again, engaged and helping to literally create the plan for dealing with these issues here in the town of Barnstable, can come and join us and participate in this workshop.
They'll be well fed.
That's correct. We do realize a one-day commitment is a substantial commitment to take out of people's time. We scheduled it on a Friday. Hopefully some people have some flexibility around that. We will, of course, provide breakfast and lunch and snacks to sort of, again, keep people engaged and reflect this timetable. But this is what there's sort of a format that the state lays out that every single town that participates in this, and again, there are literally hundreds of municipalities participating in this sort of formula process to identify these issues in our community and then develop, again, sort of a prioritized action plan of their concerns. So As a recipient of the grant, we had the opportunity to bring on a group to help us with this. It's not, because it is such a heavy lift, it's not just town staff that does all this work. So we've contracted with the staff from the Cape Cod Commission, as well as the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension and Woods Hole Sea Grant, who have been, both of those agencies, just fantastic partners in climate resilience projects with the town of Barnstable in the past. So we're really looking forward to working with them again. They're going to come in and facilitate this event on March 29th. And help us meet the requirements of this really exciting grant program.
So when we talk about identifying natural hazards and then prioritizing some of those risks, let's talk about what are some of those hazards, so people understand that if they want to come to this, this is what they're going to actually kind of think and determine.
Sure. So I think when most people think about climate resiliency, they're thinking about coastal resiliency issues. You know, we are obviously a coastal community, and we deal with a lot of the impacts of that. So things like major storms, hurricane, and then the sort of impacts of those: coastal erosion, flooding, storm surge. Those are kind of the big ones that we get. But then there are other ones that perhaps don't get as much don't get as much attention, but present some real vulnerabilities in Barnstable. Those might be things like wildfires or forest fires. We're actually a very high-risk forest fire community. We do a lot of work with our conservation program in our natural areas to try to address some of those risks. So we're really going to look at the range of things. Again, there will probably be sort of an emphasis on coastal resiliency issues, because I think those are our most prominent. But we really want to look at that full spectrum of vulnerability, so people have an awareness and an understanding of it, but also because we want to, again, in our sort of action plan, be able to address the full scope of those risks.
Right. And then talk a little bit about prioritizing risks. It seems like they're all like really important. You know, when I was taught to do a to-do list, it was A1 is important, B1 not so much, C could wait to the next day, and empty the trash could be on the to-do list forever. So when you're looking at that prioritizing, you know, is it business orientated, is it economic development orientated, or is it just the coast itself?
Yeah, so the idea is that we look at these risks and vulnerabilities through multiple lenses. So there are sort of three different frameworks through which we'll do this analysis. The first one will be sort of analysis of infrastructure and the built environment. The second one through an environmental lens, and then the third one through a social lens, how it affects people and how we as a community can build our own resilience through interrelationships or response, the way we respond to disasters. So we want to take each one of these issues that our community faces and break it down and think about the risks in sort of each one of those three areas, and then that helps us to start to understand when it comes to protecting people, when it comes to protecting our environment, when it comes to protecting the structures and the investments we have here, how to start to balance and prioritize those.
Right. And you had mentioned that, you know, committees and commissions and board members that are currently sitting right now here at the town of Barnstable, this is a really good vehicle for them to do a deep dive into this issue. But what about the regular resident, the citizen that's out there and going, yeah, I got a kind of a inkling of what this means to me. Should they attend to this?
So we certainly invite anybody to register for the event. I think the broader sort of participation we can have in this, again, you know, we're not starting the conversation here in Barnstable. Coastal resiliency, climate resiliency are issues that we've talked about for a long time, but again, I think this is an important step forward in the process. So yeah, if you're just a regular resident and are really sort of interested in moving climate resiliency and coastal resiliency issues forward, this would be a great way to come and sort of learn if you don't know, or if you do know, sort of put your voice in the process. So we have information and sign up available on the Planning and Development Department website. I'm sure that's going to be announced through all of our typical channels, so look for that announcement coming forward, and then there's a site you can register on.
So they're going to register for it at the Planning and Development site. It's March 29th, and you're pretty much all day.
Pretty much all day. Yeah, there'll be more specifics if you want more specifics.
Right.
You can go to that webpage and check them out. But it is a full day commitment. We understand if people can't make it all day, but we ask you to sort of attend as much as possible so you can sort of see the full picture. And I think it's going to be, again, sort of a great opportunity to work with our partners, some of our community and regional partners in resilience. Again, sort of really looking forward to their perspective and their expertise on this and to move this important issue forward in Barnstable.
Great, this is fantastic. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Great. Thanks, Paula.
Airport Manager Katie Service flies in for an update and shares some economic data and highlights for some upcoming events at Barnstable Municipal Airport.
The state just completed an airport impact study. They looked at all of their airports within the state of Massachusetts, and it's completed by the Massachusetts Aeronautics Division. They completed one in 2014, and this was the update to that impact statement. And really what it does is it provides airports with a tool to see really how they shake out and how their operations and being present within a community, what that means for the community. What is their economic impact in the community? So for Barnstable Airport, we are a significant impact in the community. If you can imagine, when we looked at 2014 numbers, we employed over 2,300 people in the town. Those people in turn go out and they purchase food or they purchase goods and services within the town, so that's the impact that they have on the town as well. So with 2,300 employees and an output of just over $208 million, that's pretty significant for a community. So we just recently received the update that the state has completed. The airport numbers have gone down slightly. We have gone from 2,300 employees to just over 1,700 employees. It's understandable of the downturn that we have seen. The airport itself has gone through some significant changes in the number of passengers that we see coming through the airport and the number of businesses that we see operating at the airport. But I think that we're at the bottom, and I at least hope we're at the bottom, and we're going to see that come back up. The significant change that we witnessed and that really affected the economics of the airport was truly two things. The loss of Island Airlines, which they filed for bankruptcy in December of 2015. That impacted the airport significantly so. We lost a lot of passengers, we lost a lot of employees, jet fuel sales, we also lost people parking out in the parking lot. So that affected us tremendously. And when that happened, the airport had to really look at themselves and say, well, what do we need to do to be able to turn this around? What do we need to do to increase our activity at the airport? And really, it's not an easy answer. There's a lot of steps that the airport really needs to take to turn that around. And I think we have the tools to be able to do that. With the help of the town of Barnstable, we are an enterprise fund. We are a fee-based structure. We need to make our own monies at the airport to be able to support us and our staff and our operations here and to maintain our facilities. So with that being said, we really need to develop a plan of how we're going to do that. Knowing that aviation fluctuates significantly, so we really have to put our eggs in different baskets. So if you remember from this past December, we issued a proposal was put out there for the Kmart Plaza. That's the airport's property, 26 acres that was deeded to the town as long as it stayed in the management of the airport. So that is a way that the airport can make money that's not tied to aviation. But there are other things that we can do. But both Matt Elia, who is the assistant airport manager, and myself are looking at ways from a business perspective, how do we diversify our revenue stream? And through the help of our airport commission, we were able to come up with goals that are going to be the essence of our business plan. And really there's 4 goals, and within those goals we have a lot of objectives and tasks so that we can look at the airport from strictly a business standpoint and diversify where we're making our revenue. And it's really marching orders for Matt and I to be able to identify new opportunities for the airport and to really, see this airport grow and flourish because it is a huge economic impact for the town. We're lucky to have an airport in our town. And I really think that it is our duty to make sure that we're leading it in the right direction. We have a lot of things going on at the airport. We're actually very pleased to be able to use this terminal, this beautiful terminal, not only for airport activities, but for our community. You have seen probably oftentimes we have the Cape Cod Young Professionals that operates out of the airport terminal, very successful. Over 900 people attend that event in the fall. So after Cape Cod Young Professionals came to us in their first year, we realized that there's a lot that we can do at this terminal and really open it up to even more community events. We have always had nonprofits use the terminal on a regular basis, but we've expanded that. And I love to see our community be able to use this airport and have yet another location within the town of Barnstable that they can call their own, that it's part of the fabric of the community. So one of the things that we do is, for instance, we have the Cape Cod Concert Band. They practice here. On Monday nights. They like the acoustics of the terminal. They've been doing it for quite some time, and we love having them. Nights that I stay late and work, I'm serenaded by some beautiful music, so it's great. We also have, for the first time ever, we are going to host Cub Scout troop here at the airport. We're going to have a night at the terminal, kind of like a night at the museum. We're trying to figure out how we can get some of our navigational aids that are downstairs as static displays in the terminal, how they can come to life to make the kids really feel like they're part of the terminal. We'll figure that one out. But that's coming up sometime in April. We also have the Cape Cod Chamber that will be here for a good morning breakfast event. So an opportunity for us to say, hey, these are the airlines that we have at the airport. These are the companies that we have that operate out of here. These are the opportunities that the community has as another alternative to transportation. So it's a chance for us to showcase what's happening at the airport, and that's taking place on April 26th. In May, we have Duffy Healthcare that will have their annual gala here in the terminal. So we're looking forward to that. About 350 people will be present for their annual gala, and we're just happy to support them in that effort. In July, we're going to be part of the Discover Barnstable series, but we have 2 sightings of the airport personnel for those series, July 15th and I think the 21st. We'll be out at Bismore Park, and we'll be showcasing the airport. Our tenants will be joining us to be part of that. So it's really exciting. I'm just glad that everybody's getting involved in their backyard airport. So, you know, don't forget that our summer season is coming up. We have a lot of corporate traffic that uses this airport and general aviation recreational users as well. But don't forget, this is home to Cape Air, Retrix Shuttle, and in the summertime, JetBlue, seasonal service to JFK. There's a lot of opportunities here. I'd ask that our community look at Hyannis first, fly today at HYA, before you head up to Boston or to Providence.
Here's a look at the upcoming meetings for boards, commissions, and committees. Up next, things to do, places to go, and people to meet. The Rotary Club of Hyannis' 61st annual home show has a new twist. Now build the home garden and lifestyle show. This annual spring rite is a favorite of Cape Codders and many others throughout southeastern Massachusetts. It will feature more than 150 vendors displaying their products for home renovation, landscaping, and this year, lifestyle enhancement. A 5K walk run will emphasize the importance of a robust lifestyle choices. Saturday, doors open at Barnstable High School on March 30th and 31st, 10 a.m. More information, hyannisrotary.org. Comments, suggestions, accolades, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Email us or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works. For you, I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.